The members of the Sugimoto family set up the altar to their ancestors in a stone-built tomb after the house burned down in 1864. The construction plans and details also escaped the flames. That enabled an identical house to be rebuilt 4 years later. The house of Sugimoto still stands in the heart of Kyoto. It is the incarnation of the Sugimoto family, whose fortune was founded on the kimono fabrics trade. In a Japanese house, the walls are not walls. There are no windows. Forget all about the rules of Western architecture. It's impossible to understand the organization of areas or their hierarchy. Rooms are simply placed side by side. They are not all the same size, but there is no furniture to indicate their purpose. The codes for deciphering the areas are radically different. Doubtless because in Japan, space is not defined in the same way as in Europe.
Ma,
space between one object and another, between one event and another. Emptiness, a void. A room in a house, a pause between two notes to create a rhythm. The single 30-metre facade on the street is an outward sign of wealth. The line of buildings varies in height and appearance. On the upper level are attics with series of loopholes that are known as insect box windows. No windows, wooden cladding, paper walls, wattle and daub, a succession of screens which make it impossible to see the inside. A cloth flag, a noren, with the ideogram that describes the family's symbolic tree. The sugi indicates the entrance. To gain entry to the house, one must first pass through the former shop, where the wholesale prices of the fabrics were negotiated. Two spaces opposite each other enclose the entrance corridor. The shop on the street and the courtyard constitute a buffer zone, separating the street from the actual living quarters. The house is divided into two main areas. On one side of the reception rooms, on the other the living rooms for the family. This is not merely a difference of use, it is a first code. On the east side is the kei, which defines the usual quarters, the large kitchen floored with stone slabs, and the adjacent room which can be used as a dining room. On the west is the other extremity, the arrêt. This defines the special areas, the reception rooms, the tea room, or the altar to the ancestors. Such usage refers to spiritual values. Here, according to Buddhism, the devil comes from the northeast, and paradise lies westward. The noble functions are separated from the prosaic functions by a passage, unusual for Japan. A frontier that defines a second axis of approach, perpendicular to the first, that of depth, oku. The further away from the road towards the rear of the plot, the greater the symbolic value of the place. Two axes apply to the organization of the space. One goes from east to west, from the ordinary to the sacred. The other axis makes it possible to measure the importance of visitors. In the fabric shop nearest to the street, the customers. Right at the back of the house, the eminent guests. The ground plan of the dwelling is not symmetrical, and only occupies 2/5 of the plot that follows the same polarization as the house. On the noble side and at the back are the gardens. On the prosaic side, storage for rice, wood, toilets and rubbish. They can be reached without going through the house. At the rear of the plot, in the part furthest away from the street, and therefore the best protected, are the kura, the stores with white-painted, thick wattle and daub walls that protect the stocks of fabrics and the valuable or ritual objects of the house from heat and fire. From the large neighbouring buildings, it appears to be not a house but a hamlet, a collection of unrelated little houses separated by courtyards and trees, the shop, storehouses, warehouses and dwellings, altogether about 20 roofs.
Yane,
roof. Cover for a house to protect it from the rain. The literal translation of the two characters is the root of the house. The root is above, that is the roof. The flat varnished tiles are set in a wave pattern on impressive roof timbers, a pure design in great beams. No nails. They say that in case of fire, it is quicker to dismantle the roof timber than to go for water. Everyone glorifies woodwork in a country where there are no fewer than 40 separate joints for assembling posts, beams and joists. In Japan, the carpenter is the equal of the architect. A post takes on a symbolic importance. The Daikoku Bashira, the emblem of the house. Made from sugi wood, a post 12 meters high. It is socketed into a stone with a hollow center that is buried in the earth. This is the only foundation. The remainder of the house is built on piles that rest on flat stones. Between the ground and the flooring is a space 2 steps high, a sanitary space to let air circulate and cool the house. Apart from the 2 main posts that ensure the lateral stability of the building, the remainder of the structure is simply set down. When the earth trembles, the house trembles, but does not collapse. The height is also a code. You don't say, "come in," you say, "come up." And going up means taking off your shoes. The postman is not invited to take his shoes off and go up into the house. He is under the roof, but the code indicates that he remains outside. Neither carpet nor flooring. Flexible and fragile, the tatami is a 5.5 centimeter thick piece of compressed rice straw, covered in plaited cane with a fabric border. Its dimensions are easily explained. The size of a person lying down. In Kyoto is 1 meter 90 by 95 centimeters. That is the unit of measurement. Each room in the house is a multiple of it. The 3 tatami room, the 6 tatami room, or 8 or 10 or 12 tatamis. Each multiple creates a new orthogonal composition, a floor pattern that identifies each room. Punctuated by the black borders and the cane weave, the juxtaposition of the tatamis creates a background for the play of light and shadow. The separation between rooms is marked neither by doors nor windows, but by grooves in the floor, posts, or grooves in the joists. The fixed structure of the house is a large wooden skeleton, ready to accept sliding and detachable screens. Rooms are set side by side without dividing corridors. As the Japanese architect Inoue Mitsuo said, the house is a series of connected empty spaces. Open-work wooden panels covered with translucent paper, the shoji, separate the inside from the outside of the house. Wooden panels covered with opaque paper, the fusuma, divide the rooms from each other. In summer, partitions of plaited cane, the sudare, replace the paper screens. These light divisions were inventions of necessity. In case of an earthquake, they cause no harm. In case of fire, there is little to burn. However, they are highly symbolic dividers. They provide no protection from cold, noise, or smell. They seem to be immaterial. Inserted between wooden posts, they are not load-bearing. No more than the rare wattle and daub walls, a mixture of earth and straw, a reminder of the peasant origin of all the materials: rice straw, cane, earth and wood. In Japan, a living space only becomes a space for living when a functional object is put in it, like a cushion or a decoration such as a painting. Total flexibility. Coded by the object, the function of a main living room disappears when its table and vase are stowed away. The space waits without qualification. It's empty. How can light be made to penetrate this juxtaposition of separate spaces? The paper screens are translucent, light passes, but not vision. But here it is the very logic of the question that must be inverted. Here it is a shadow that has value and must be managed. The plan shows light wells, recesses like the dry garden near to the altar to the ancestors. But the whole house is an illustration of clair-obscur, a hymn to half-light.
Ok. 内へ深く入ったところ、外側から遠い方、
Oku,
家の
somewhere deep inside, as far away as possible from the outside. The rear of the house, where the most important people live. According to its distance from the street, the area changes its nature. Each room crossed, each screen opened and then closed marks a progression. It is a scale of values for rooms that are hardly distinguishable one from the other. It is also a sign of the importance of the person received. Way behind is the great room, the largest in the house, 12 tatamis, kept for people of the highest rank. Like temple monks, it allows for contemplation of the garden. It is the outcome of the progression, the ultimate value. The garden is nature mastered, maintained with sophistication. It is a real composition. 100-year-old moss, trees, large flat stones tracing a path, a lantern and a stone urn. The garden is protected behind a palisade of woven cane and bamboo. This is a private place for meditation. The nearness to nature encourages the permanent dialogue that man must hold between the ebb and flow of the world. The veranda, Engawa, is the place devoted to this contemplation. A long wooden plank that separates the reception room from the garden, a covered space at once in and outside the house, a threshold between building and nature, an interspace. One of the ways by which the house creates a dialogue with its surroundings. Within this dialogue, the crisscross pattern looms over all, the repetition of thick and thin, opaque and translucent, the invention of a linear rhythm that cross-hatches the vision of the exterior, these infinite variations of wood and paper superimposed to allow sight without being seen through. In the middle of this fluid and flexible architecture is an oddity, a closed room with walls and doors. The Western Room, built in 1929, the only room whose screens do not slide. The room is cluttered with modern furniture. There is even a piano, a sign of social success and imitation of the West, that seems a poor substitute for all the traditional architecture that Japan has given to the rest of the world's architecture in the last century. Since it was built in 1743, the house of Sugimoto has survived fire, earthquakes, war, and more recently, speculative builders. Today it is part of the cultural heritage, a place to visit, where people come to learn the tea ceremony or observe the rituals linked to the great Nishi Honganji temple, an honor and an expense for the Sugimoto family who still live in it. Unheeding all that it has seeded in contemporary architecture, this house is the incarnation, in every meaning of the word, of tradition, a style of life and a place of meditation.